All right, I'm back for Dust Dust's ongoing coverage of Blast TV Austin Major. I'm here with Cxzi following this day before their Stage 1 matches here at the Major. So to start, this is your first Major. How are you feeling heading into what's been a long road for you to your first Major?
I'm feeling pretty good. I think we've been practicing with Paytyn for the last couple of weeks, so I think it's been better than I expected, honestly, with having a stand-in, especially going over everything that we want to. But yeah, we just want to play our game and do some damage.
You mentioned, having Paytyn here. Now the cat's fully out of the bag that he's going to be playing tomorrow instead of hallzerk, which, no surprises to a lot of people. But I was actually surprised to realize that you've never played with him despite both of you guys coming up at the same time and, having been parts of lots of different, mixed teams over the years, you've never had a chance to play with him. So what's it been like working with him in this short time you've had with him?
I think it's been pretty good overall. I think he definitely has a little more passive style, but I think it actually kind of helps around me because I can sometimes go more aggro and he's more supportive based now. And I think overall, I never did play with him throughout my career, but I think also he was a little bit. He was always moved up a little bit before me, and I was always on the. I was he leaves Triumph, I join Triumph as Mike and him goes. So it's kind of just I'm always one step behind, I guess you could say.
And since the hallzerk news has been confirmed, how long have you had to work with him? A week, 2 weeks? What's been sort of the boot camp with Junior?
I think we've been playing 3 weeks, around 3 weeks, maybe a little bit more than 3 weeks now. So yeah, we've had some time with him.
Additionally, we saw a couple month and a half ago now. You got rid of Tian as your coach, and you've been working with Eric Adrin from formerly of Nouns. He's a pretty legendary coach. Took a NA team to win the Grand Slam. Worked with Liquid for all those years. Has been really in the scene for a long time. How is he different from TC as your coach and other previous coaches you've worked with in your career?
I've worked with a couple coaches. Overall, I've had pretty good experiences with most of them, and I think Tian's always been more a mental for us because at first I would say when we were obviously losing, mental was kind of getting lower and lower. I think Tian actually helped a lot with that and keeping it positive too, and but also keeping us accountable for mistakes and everything like that. I think we've only been with Eric for a month now, maybe around 3 weeks with Paytyn. I think he's brought a little bit more tactical stuff and kind of made we more stuff that we can think about too, how we want to play.
We're looking now to your first match of the Major tomorrow versus OG. They're another team that's kind of had a lot of ups and downs in the circuit. They've only been to one LAN this year, which is a similar boat to, you guys have been to more LANs than them, but sort of similar boat as in they've had to do a lot of building up to be ready for the Major itself. How's the squad feeling about that match tomorrow versus OG?
To be honest with you, I haven't watched anything about them yet. I'll be doing that later, but I don't know. I don't really know anything about OG. I know they did well in the qualifier to the Major, but I haven't really watched anything because they weren't really, doing well until then.
That's pretty unusual to, I feel like prep only a couple hours before your match tomorrow. Is that a sign of the team's confidence, or, what is that pretty usual for you guys to do pretty late prep and focus on other things before then?
I think everybody preps different, but we've had they haven't had many matches in the last month, and all the stuff we could even watch is from a month ago. People change their stuff, and it's in tier 1 everything's always changing consistently. You don't use the same stuff you do a week before, you change it up. So stuff from a month ago is not really something that there's not, I wouldn't say there's a point to watch it, but it's something that is going to be changed. So if you do prep too hard, now you're just going to confuse, you're just going to not play your own game. And honestly, prepping for us is a lot different than maybe other teams usually do.
If we think back to when you first joined Complexity at the start of this year, I think a lot of people were expecting you to have maybe more of the early breakout, while Nick would have the most struggle because you have far more experience than he has. But it was almost opposite at the start of the year. But more recently, we've seen you had a pretty good uptick in form, and you've been improving and getting more comfortable in these tier 1 competitions. How are you feeling about your own form heading into the Major?
I think overall, early on it was definitely a little bit rough, throughout the whole team. I think we've made some role swaps and everything like that, and it kind of fits better. Now I'm a mixture of some anchor roles and lurk roles, but also then in some of the rotator spots. And now JT gets to have a bigger vision now, and Mike's getting a little bit more unlocked, so it kind of makes it all a little bit easier. But I think honestly for me, I've just been more confident. I think at the beginning of the year I was a little bit nervous, and obviously first event didn't go well. Then I had maybe a good map in Cato, but it just took time, and then we had we going back to NA, kind of killed it, and then build some confidence then. it kind of carried over, I think.
And then more broadly, what do you think is the biggest change in the team? If you look back to the start of the year and now at your first major, what's the most significant change to the team that you think is going to allow you to find success here in Austin?
I think it just like I feel like our style is just a lot different than a lot of other teams like usually traditionally play, and I think that's like we're like more of a shock factor, and also we're just like just playing together really well overall. I think that's like I think it's more teamwork basically. Like when they had EliGE, obviously he's a star player. He's again top 20 player this last year. There's a lot of like star power in that, and it's more like playing around him. But now we're all just playing with each other and all like doing things for each other in the server, and that's how everybody can have their moments and shine.
And final question for you: how are you feeling about our chance to make in stage 2?
Pretty confident. I think that we'll go 3-0, 3-1, whatever it is, we'll get through this stage. And I think, honestly, I really think we can make it to stage 3. And who knows, maybe hallzerk does get his visa then, and we can just, show everybody off in stage 3 too.
All right, that's Cxzi from Cxzi. They'll be facing OG tomorrow. Thank you so much for your time.